pass that in. Nick, I can't remember if I printed that for you already.
Yeah.
I need the executive session.
We'll grab it
Is it
if
in
we
there?
need it.
Okay.
I don't have it. Do you?
Oh, I've got it. I'm sorry. Let me pass that to you.
There you go.
You don't. Shouldn't they have to give you 2 copies?
I'm not reading it twice, Tony.
No. Once at a time, right?
Some light reading before bed.
Not that bad.
Yeah, I do have this one. Trying.
Oh, okay.
You're on my way.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. Juliaetta City Council meeting, July 14th, 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, I'd like to make a motion to amend pursuant Idaho Code 74204 on good faith. This information was provided by the city attorney just today, so I would like to add to the agenda a statement that will be made by the mayor to be placed. Do we want to do that first or after the public comment? To be done after the public comment?
I say we do it after the public hearing.
Okay, move
An
to,
action item.
and I need that,
Yeah,
yeah,
as an action
as an action item.
I'll make the motion to accept that.
You have to just second.
Oh, just a second. Perfect.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion passes. Okay, we'll do that after the public hearing. So we'll now call the public hearing to order. This is on the resolution for the digital water bills. So what we're wanting to do is to save money for the citizens is send them out digitally. And if you don't want to do it that way, then we will send you a bill, but it will cost an extra. I thought we talked about $2, but I see in this one it says $4, so that can be moved to change that amount by council, correct?
Yeah, you can change it.
Yeah.
That's very well a typo by me.
So we would give like 60 or 90 days, whatever you guys decide, and then moving forward after that, they would either opt in for the digital bill or continue getting the paper bill, and then it would just be an extra charge, whatever the council chooses. You still will be able to pay by check, by cash, use the Dropbox. None of that will change. You can also still utilize the online bill pay that we have as well.
How would you opt in?
You would just sign up with Cheyenne with your email. And then the system will automatically email your bill once a month.
I don't even know if the public necessarily needs to even contact me. I think if they were to just set up an account
Yeah, they can do it
on
online
the
as well.
community portal and opt in for electronic, then there's a report I can pull from COSEL that will tell me everyone that's registered to
So you
receive
should probably put
an email bill.
a link on the Facebook, a post on the Facebook, and you put a link on the city website for that. So it's obviously, we're gonna do this.
Yeah, broadcast it best we can, absolutely.
Clear.
So we'll now open it up for any public comment. Does any of the public have comment? Yes. Clarice, and then we'll go with you, Mark.
I'm against the $4. I'm totally for saving money for the city, for the citizens that can't afford it. For example, my Home Depot, I get paper statements, it's $2 and it's like 5 pages. My investment account's $3 and it's 20 pages. So $4 for a postcard is a bit on the high side. That's like a coffee almost at Starbucks, almost. But also we do have a lot of senior citizens that don't do electronics, they don't do email. They aren't like us on a regular basis. I'm in my emails constantly day in, day out. We have a generation of folks here in town that just don't. And I think that for the senior citizens, as well as I saw the thing on the publishing for the ADA, senior citizens should probably be able to get excluded from that if they're not internet savvy. So that's my 2 cents, or $4, if you will.
Mark?
I'd just like to second everything she said, just stole my thunder. Actually, I think there's too many senior citizens. I don't think you have enough time to roll this out in time for everyone to understand it and become familiar with email or anything else. I think we should leave this open. I like the idea of seniors, of having an exemption for senior citizens and the disabled, but I think you should consider that. But I think this is rolling out too quickly for as many elderly as we have.
Any other public comment? Yes.
What's on what the problem we have now has been working for X number of years in the system. Leave the system alone the way it is, because you're gonna cause more problems than what's for it right now.
Any other public comment?
Just hearing related or?
Yes, this is just public hearing related. Okay,
Yeah, I just had a comment.
yes.
There are a lot of people that are still not wanting to go on the internet to pay. So if you do put this out, you need to emphasize the fact that they don't have to pay electronically even if they get it. And I think, don't be in a rush to roll this out, take more time, because how many people do you have that have automatic pay at this time, Cheyenne?
Automatic pay or online bill, because we do the
Either.
bill.
Combined.
Oh, I'd probably say 75 to.
And how many
100
accounts
people.
are there? About 200?
264.
264.
Mhm.
But I think maybe wait a little while on it and encourage people to do it and see how much you can get automatically. And then get more feedback from people as they get a little more comfortable with the idea of paying online.
And we saw the resolution wouldn't take effect until October 1. We're thinking that's still
But
too
that's
soon.
still, for a lot of people, especially like they were saying, there are a lot of the older people I know, they still don't trust online banking very much. So they aren't going for that. So you're going to have to emphasize to them that they don't have to pay online. And they aren't going to be comfortable with necessarily thinking, so I just walk in with my check or something. So you need to put more out on your Facebook page about how you need to do it for a while. I think 3 months is rather a short time to educate people about it, especially since a lot of them won't be on Facebook.
Sure.
It'll be their friends that will be getting the information to them.
Okay, is there any other public comment about the hearing? Okay, we'll now close the hearing and move on to, that was the statement next, right?
Yes.
On June 16th, 2026, the council met for a budget workshop. During that meeting, the discussion properly dealt with discussion about potential projects and projected costs. However, the discussion expanded too far into one project involving a potential city RV park. The discussion on that topic was preliminary and conceptual only. No decisions were made. Only basic introductory information was received. Council did not take action as a result from that meeting and will not. If council is going to consider that matter further, it will be done in open session with open deliberation and receiving information from interested persons in compliance with the Open Meeting Act. Because no action was taken in that budget workshop, there are no actions to be declared void. The city will not take action based on the information received in the budget workshop. And if the city is to consider the RV park in the future, the city will rely only on information received in future meetings to make that decision. I would like the council to adopt this position by motion and vote.
I move to adopt the position.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor? Motion passes. Pass that down to Cheyenne. Okay, now we're on to consent agenda minutes from June 9th, June 16th, budget workshop July 8th, July 13th, and approval of payables.
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes for the June 9th, June 16th, July 8th, and July 13th meetings.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion passes. Then on to the payables.
I move to accept the payables.
A second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the payables. All in favor? Motion passes. Okay. Okay.
Before we get to the next action item, I do have a question about that. I feel like that we already weren't charging to mail out those bills. I don't think we should have a charge at all for the amendment for, I would just like us to consider that we don't make a charge at all. We're already paying it.
Yeah, I agree. I intend to make a motion to amend that to,
Okay,
we don't need to charge, at least not at this time anyways.
yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, it has been moved to, so are we, you're just moving to change it, or are we?
I move to amend the resolution so that we do not charge for paper billing.
Okay, there, it's been moved. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to change the resolution, to amend the resolution to not charge for bills.
I know we kind of skipped over this. So is that any different than what we're already doing now? Because people have the option of go online and opt in to receiving email and pay
Correct.
online automatically. So do we even at this time need a resolution?
Because currently
We're not
we do,
changing.
we do not charge, and we do not, it's not a opt-in, but see, this way here, basically right now, they have the option to opt in for the paperless billing. This way, this is to move to do that in October,
October 1 would be the start date.
but if they would basically stay the same if we're not charging them to opt in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So this would just make the default method electronic, right? And then it would be up to the public to request a paper bill? Is that what you're?
Well, they'd have to opt in with the email. So we wouldn't be able to default, they would have to opt out of the paper bill, essentially. So they could opt out of it for free, like they could right now.
Okay. I guess if we do it for free, is there any incentive for anyone to do that?
Right.
Right,
guess
and
that's
it's no
my
different,
only
right,
concern.
and it's no
I see what
different than
you're
what we're
saying,
already
yeah.
giving them the option. It seems like we're being
The,
redundant.
Right.
the whole, we are, so it's one thing I came across in the Lions, which is, there's a lot of older people in that. They don't do email.
Yeah.
That's a legit and very real consideration. I mean, like, there's a very, very significant amount of elderly people in here that don't pay attention to Facebook and that sort of thing. And I'm all about saving money, but I do agree with that. It's gonna cause trouble. If we were to charge money, we should less do it later and then have a considerable amount of advertising saying, like, even being sent out on the bill saying, please opt into electronic notification, that kind of thing.
Well, and I think too that it would be very helpful for the community to understand how much money we would save by not sending out paper billing. And that includes the time that Cheyenne dedicates to stamp every one of these bills, to print every one of these bills. Because I believe that both Justin and Joe have had to help her do that because it is very time consuming. And so I think that we just need to make sure that they're aware that we could save this amount of money if you were to opt in to electronic billing, but I don't think we should essentially charge them either because we already don't charge them.
Well, something,
I think at this time, the best approach for the city to take is to start the process now of encouraging people to sign up. And then we can re-look at it down the road. We'll have had a chance to, see how many people actually do respond and go from there. But I do think that with an older population, they're all gonna, most of them are not gonna want to opt in anyways. But I think that we could probably definitely increase the amount of people that are using that option if we just educate the public and let them know that that's something that
Yes.
benefits the city and that the city encourages them to do.
Yes.
Then something else, when we do revisit it, actually add the cost, but do like in dollar increments or something like that.
And even if we were gonna do a cost $4 That must be a typo, because
Yeah,
that's,
it was a typo.
that's a
We
lot of
did-
money. That's,
Yeah,
that's.
yeah, that was a typo.
Well, and I could say as far as like, it's more of an incentive to encourage them to opt in, but my own family member's 90, or will be next weekend. I know he's not going to, and he would be down here talking to Cheyenne. But I think at this time, I wasn't at the last meeting when this was discussed, and I think, yeah, we just need to do a better job maybe of educating our citizens to encourage them to sign up and see how it goes in the next 6 months, year. And
And with that, when you sign up on the portal, it doesn't automatically enroll you in paperless billing. And I think that's probably the step that is getting missed by a lot of people,
true.
just inadvertently. It's not the most intuitive. So I would just ask if there's anyone out there who has signed up for the portal.
Can we do like a mock thing with a video on Facebook, like screenshot your computer when you're doing just some like John Doe showing them how to opt in and just put that information out on our website and on Facebook to help
Yeah, absolutely.
educate.
We put like a message on there, send Cheyenne your email if you want to opt in, keep
Yeah.
it simple.
Mhm.
Sure. I think that's great.
Because that'll be
Absolutely.
the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. People can always call too, and then I can walk them through.
Stop her in the street. This is what she looks like.
Please don't do that.
So that said, then do we need to still adopt this resolution that it was motioned?
No, I think it's,
We still have
Did
motion on
we
the floor.
motion?
We
Yeah,
do
I
have a
think we
motion on the floor, so we have to vote.
yep.
We have
Is
to
there,
vote
was
on
there was a second on the motion?
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
all in favor of amending and adopting the resolution? All opposed? Okay, motion fails. Okay, you're up, Tony.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I think everybody knows me. Bailey was here last year, but my name's Tony Matthews. I'm with Hayden Ross. Here to present the fiscal year 24, so 9/30/24 audit. Before we get started, what I'd like to say is that we've issued a clean opinion on the financial statements. So we believe they are fairly stated as presented. There is a couple pieces of required communication that I've given Cheyenne. One is related to, we do have an audit finding on the financial statements related to the financial close and reporting process. So what that means in a nutshell is there were a number of entries that we needed to make in order for the financial statements to get from their original condition to being fairly stated. We worked with Cheyenne on those, but those are primarily related to your books are effectively on a cash basis, right? Cash in, cash out. But at the end of the year, you need to make sure that all your year-end accruals. So do we have any revenues outstanding that belong in the fiscal year? Do we have any bills that belong in the fiscal year? So those are like what we would call the cash to accrual adjustments. So we're effectively working with Cheyenne on doing those entries at the end of the year. And ultimately, that's a responsibility of the city to have your books on that accrual basis. I would say that alone isn't necessarily a reason to have a finding on the statements. We do work with other cities and governments on making those cash accrual adjustments. But the other things that kind of led us to putting a finding on the financial statements is related to like grant reconciliations. So you guys have a bunch of reimbursable grants that are coming in and coming out, and just lining those out to make sure that all your grant expenditures, you've requested all the dollars that you need to for those reimbursements. Like your ARPA money, you've recognized the money, you got the ARPA in advance, so it's sort of been sitting there as deferred revenue. So you would recognize those revenues once you've had a qualifying ARPA expense. So those type of grant reconciliations just weren't done at the end of the year. Fixed asset reconciliation, so when we really go through your financial statements, like, hey, this is our list of fixed assets from last year. Here's our new additions that we had. Here's the ones that we disposed of. And that's stuff just in your general funds across the water and sewer and sanitation fund. So we did a lot of work on fixed assets. And then And then the bank recs weren't necessarily done timely in fiscal year 24. And this is the year that we had, like, you had the big change, right? So your treasurer left, the financial statements and the bank recs were done pretty much up till 2 months before the end of the fiscal year. And then it was just, there was a vacant position, you had different people in those spots, and ultimately those last two bank recs, it just took a while to get the spot where those could get done. So all of those reasons are sort of encapsulated in the finding that we have on the financial closing reporting. So that's something that we'll be working with Cheyenne on moving forward. Obviously, we're looking at fiscal year 24. Fiscal year 25 is in the works in terms of just getting the bank recs and everything caught up. Nikki's working. Yep, is that going well? Okay, good. So you guys have a consultant right now that's helping you guys just kind of get that all up, and so that your fiscal year 25 and ultimately your fiscal year 26 books and records are going to be up to date, which is great. Like, you guys are on the right path. Just at the end of fiscal year 24, we kind of had this hiccup in terms of just where the city is at. So there's a letter over there that's just communicating that finding and has a statements. The other piece of required communication is our Indian governance letter. So this just explains some of the upcoming accounting standards for the city, significant estimates in the financial statements, which really just comes down to useful life of your depreciable assets for depreciation expense. And then most importantly, that we didn't have any disagreements with management. So I wanted to take a second to thank Cheyenne and Justin for all their work. And Bailey has been down here mostly. I'm kind of the fill-in tonight. She was out of town, but like, it's been a really good. You guys have been great and continue to work on the accounting. So thank you very much. There's two packages in front of you. The smaller one with no tabs is the graphs. That's really, we're going to go through those. The tab financial statements is the actual audit. I've just tabbed two of the income statements, which you guys could look at a later time. It's effectively the summary that's in the graphs that we're going to talk about. If you were to open up the graph package, there's a narrative in the front with sort of a little bit of a summary about what I'm going to talk about tonight. So you don't have to take notes, but I'm already putting together my notes, so I just go ahead and put it in a narrative for you guys. And if you look to the first graph we have, this is the 2024 general fund operations recap. The general fund of the city started the year with a fund balance or equity of $984,000. Revenues last year were $347,000. Expenditures were $360,000. And the general fund ended the year with a fund balance or equity of $972,630. That was a decrease of just over $12,000 in fiscal year 24. If you look at a 10-year history on the next page, I always like to just get a sense of your overall revenue and expenses for the last 10 years. You can see on this graph that the revenues and expenses have effectively been on the rise over the last 10 years. That's no surprise to anyone, and it's what we see across most of the governments that we're working with. Your revenues have been greater than expenses in 6 of the last 10 years for the general fund. Last year you had a little bit of a loss, but 6 of the last 10 years you have had an increase in the fund balance. And if you look at the next page, I kind of lined out your ending equity or fund balance over the last 10 years for you guys to take a look at. There's 2 lines on this graph. The top line represents the year ending fund balance, and it has been pretty stable. 2015 year ending fund balance was $820,000 or $972,000 now, but it has sort of just fluctuated in this $800,000 to $1 million fund balance over the last 10 years. I've also put a minimum fund balance recommendation. So the city doesn't have a minimum fund balance policy, but the Government Finance Officers Association, which is sort of like the national government organization, has put out as a minimum fund balance recommendation equal to 2 months worth of revenues or expenses, and then adjust for the individual needs of the government. So I've gone ahead and put a 2-month line there. Sometimes I think 2 months is, sometimes they'll do a 2 month and then a 5 month line for a city, simply because your year end is September 30th. So your taxes, which, fund the majority of the operations generally in your general fund, you're not gonna receive those until January. So your fund balance, if you have to start with that minimum of 2 months, the city needs to make it through October, November, and December before you start getting that tax revenue in. So a lot of times I see that minimum fund balance for a September 30th year and be somewhere between that 2 and 5 months as a minimum balance. The city is sitting at $972,000. That effectively represents about 32 months of operating expenses. So, and the city has fluctuated over the years between that 2 year and 3 year. That's that $800,000 to $1 million mark. So that shouldn't be any news to you, but you have general fund's in good shape. If we look at the revenues a little bit closer, again, total revenues on the year were $347,000. That was an increase of about $27,000 or 8.6% year over year. Your primary revenue source for the general fund was taxes at $167,000. It's about 48% of your revenue. That was up year over year about $7,000, but that was in line with your L2. So your L2 increase was about 7,000 and taxes were up about 7,000. Your intergovernmental revenue was 43% or $147,000. Real similar to where it was in fiscal year 2023. This is going to be your shared revenue, highway user money, those type of shared revenues that you're getting from the state. Other revenue were $22,000. Nothing real significant in there. Your interest earnings in the general fund this last year were $10,196. And then you had some license and permit money that came in for about $139. On the expenditure side, again, total expenditures were $360,000. That was an increase of about $71,000 year over year, or about 24.6%. We'll tell that story on where that increase really happened. Your general fund expenditures were $91,000. General expenditures were $91,000. That was up about $12,000 year over year. Travels and meeting costs were up. Computer expenses were up in that category. The big increase for fiscal year 24 was the street expense, $190,000 compared to $79,000 in the prior year. So your street expense was up about $110,000 in fiscal year 24. Paving, $38,000 of paving happened that year, and street repairs of $62,000. Street repairs of $62,000 and sidewalk repairs of about $10,000. So every few years there's just a big street expense, and that was kind of what you guys were this last year or in fiscal year 24. Safety expenses were $44,866, real similar to where they were in the prior year. Your capital outlay expenditure was $17,000. So these are expenditures for generally capital asset related items. The thermal camera kit was purchased. New mower was also purchased in the fiscal year 24. Park expense was $12,859, real similar to where it was in the prior year. Library expense was $2,165. All right, moving over to the water fund. I don't have the same level of detail for the water fund, so we'll kind of go through the water and sewer and sanitation fund here real fast. Again, you got your 10-year graph here. Revenues have been greater than expenses for the last 10 years. The big anomaly in the last 10 years is your revenue in fiscal year 2020. That was all grant revenue. So you had grant revenue for is it EQUAG? Is that how we said it? EQUAG, was that the right term?
Emergency grant.
Yes, yeah, $685,000, and water line grants came in at $192,000. So those were like the big anomalies that happened in that particular year. But for fiscal year 24, the water fund had an increase in their net position of just under $13,000. And if you look at, again, so your equity, so your water, sewer, and sanitation fund, we talk about fund balance when we talk about the general fund, and we talk about net position when we talk about the water, sewer, and sanitation. Why is that important? It's just a different way that the equity is calculated. For your general fund, when you buy assets, they're just expensed. So their expenditures, your fund balance is effectively there's no assets that you have in your fund balance. So when you look at it and you say, well, I have $972,000 of fund balance, all your you don't have there's no assets that are counting towards that number. It's just available, like short-term available resources. But your water, sewer, and sanitation, because these are charges for services, they follow a more like private enterprise accounting. So your net position is going to include the net value of all your capital assets, along with available dollars to spend. Okay. So why is that important? When you look at your ending net position and you say, hey, water fund has $2,045,000 ending equity, you have of that $1,880,000 is actually unavailable. So that's going to be the value of the fixed assets, net value of the fixed assets that are being capitalized and depreciated, and then your amounts that are restricted for debt service. So when you look at that $2 million, takeaway there is about $164,000 of actual available dollars that can roll over into the next year. Does that sort of make sense? So when I look at the water, sewer, and sanitation, I tend to look at like your working capital. So what your working capital is effectively how much short-term assets do I have, available assets, to pay short-term expenses of like your short-term liabilities. So it's really a ratio that determines like how am I able to fund all my current liabilities with my current assets. We always recommend that you have at least 1.5 months worth of your current your working capital be at least 1.5 months of your expenditures, so that once you've settled all those bills, you still have excess assets or cash to be able to pay 1.5 months worth of expenditures. That's effectively what I'm trying to say. At the end of the year, your working capital was $155,000. 1.5 months worth of expenditures was $29,000. So the water fund was in pretty good shape. You had about 7.9 months worth of working capital in the water fund. And you can see the water fund was back in 2020 was actually it had been on the decline. And since 2020, you've actually got back up above that 1.5, and you're in a better cash position in your water fund. Looking at the sewer fund, same set of graphs here. Sewer fund had an increase of about $187,000 of income in fiscal year 24. 7 of the last 10 years, your revenues have been greater than expenses. And if we look at your net position ended the year on the next page there. Net position ended the year with $977,000 worth of equity. Almost all of that was just your investment in capital assets. So your sewer fund actually doesn't have a lot of liquid dollars. It's all kind of wrapped up in your assets. And if we look at the working capital ratio there, sewer fund actually made some progress this last year, which is great. Sewer fund had historically had a negative working capital ratio, meaning that your current assets were not able to pay your current liabilities. And in fiscal year 24, that flipped for the first time, and you had about $39,000 of available dollars, which equal to about 4.9 months worth of expenditures. So it's the first time it's been in the positive in the last 10 years. So it's a much better spot for the sewer fund. Sanitation fund, it had its first loss in fiscal year 24. 9 years of increases. Fiscal year 24, you had your first loss. You can obviously see that the expenditures were more in the current year. In fiscal year 24, the city began allocating a portion of the salaries that were really related to working on the sanitation related items against the sanitation fund. So pre that 24, there wasn't any salary allocation going against the sanitation fund, and it was kind of building this fund balance or equity. And the city made that change. They're like, hey, we really do have some level of our salaries that are related to the sanitation fund. We're going to begin to allocate that directly against the sanitation fund. So you had your first loss this last year of about $66,000. Sanitation, ending equity was $154,000. It was all unrestricted. The sanitation fund doesn't really have any physical assets that it's retained as part of its equity, different than the water and sewer fund. And your ending working capital was about $173,000 in the sanitation fund, which equaled about 11.5 months worth of operating expenditures in the equity there. Overall, it was a good year for the city. General fund's in good shape. Water and sewer fund have continued to kind of rise out of this negative working capital situation. And I think it was a good decision to start allocating a portion of the salaries and benefits to the sanitation fund, because I think that it was your other funds were taking the hit for some of the stuff that does actually, the sanitation fund was a good allocation. So so I think everything's in pretty good shape. I'm obviously we're ready to get fiscal year 25 caught up and get that audit done. Just in timeline, we kind of go into a busy audit season here through the end of October, but our hope is to be here in November to start working on 5 audit. Any questions for me?
I did want to make sure that I was understanding this correctly. So you guys did look at the TV association and everything was found to be on the up and up. There was nothing weird with
We
the
kind of
TV
talked
association.
through that agreed upon procedures that we had done earlier, but yes, the TV association, we found that I didn't brush up on that specifically for the meeting today, but if I'm remembering correctly, effectively all the money that the system was saying like, hey, this was TV association collected revenues, we traced that month by month, and the collected revenues from month 1 was paid out in month 2. So we found that, I think we looked over, can't remember if we looked over a 4-year period or as far back as the records would allow us to go, and that was a true statement over that time period.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay,
Perfect.
thanks,
Awesome,
Tony.
thank you. Yeah, enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Justin, do you want to talk about the water meters? Since Dean is not here present.
Okay, so, we looked at several different vendors for new water meters for the city. We're not going to be able to buy analog meters any longer. So we, as a city, are being pushed into buying digital meters. So the options are doing digital meters that have, a signal that you can drive by in a car and pick it up on a machine like a computer or a handheld. Or there are cellular meters which have a cell signal and would go to a cell tower and come to the office directly.
So with the cell meters, say that somebody thought they might have a leak, they could call Cheyenne, she could shut the meter off, then we could check to see if it was,
Well, she can watch it turning and
to
she
help
can
them
also
find
generate reports on if it is leaking or not leaking.
And right now, you and Joe are spending 2 days a month driving around reading meters, 8 hours a day, right? Roughly.
So it sounds like we did all the research. We had several budget meetings about it. So we picked a company, Correct Equipment. The salesman's been here several times. If you guys have questions for him tonight, I have his card. He's available by phone. The estimate for 149 meters is $82,720, and we budgeted 75,000 left for this year. It's already in the budget.
Are those cellular or the other?
Those are cellular.
And then we would budget it for
next year, we were
So
gonna
we could
budget
do
75,
like we do with the streets
We're
in
gonna split
September,
it.
October.
split it. So and the other thing is Dean, is pretty much guaranteeing his product. So he has volunteered to test it out on 5 houses. If we don't like it, we don't have to buy it. So anyway, that's the meter situation.
And those are the cell tower meters?
So how many years? And they did a study, they drove around town, they gave them our list. And they drove around town and said like 96% of them will work with the cell service.
About the 4%.
We'll have to hand read those probably.
So will those be the digital ones that you can get close to and read?
No, we'll just have to probably go read it by hand.
Totally fine.
That shouldn't cut, it's like
Yeah.
your hours instead
No,
of
not
days.
hours, no. They're really, really cool meters. I mean, they've come a long way. So,
And those are the ones, right, that automatically go to Cassell? Or work with Cassell?
Yeah.
Right, so it was saving her time on input also.
Yep.
It's nice because it cuts down on human error as well. I think that's probably one of the most time consuming parts is if, a meter can't get read because it could be blocked by a vehicle or something, or numbers get transposed, or I type them in
Well, and
natively.
So when they,
Frank, oh, sorry.
okay, when they read the meters, you gotta type all that information.
Yeah, so I give them a 16-page sheet and it has everyone's address who has a meter. And then it's like a 6-7 digit number for each meter that they'll write down, bring the list to me, and then I input that into Cassell.
I believe Frank at one point had told me that he reached in to flip the lid on a meter and there was a rattlesnake in there. And almost got bit by it.
and in the interest of being transparent, there is a fee associated. Each meter will have to pay a cellular fee. So it's 85-ish cents per month per meter. It works out to about $3,200, $2,700 to $3,200 a year the city would have to pay for the cell service for each meter.
And with the other way, there was a upfront program.
There's a large
that
upfront
large
where you
upfront
buy the
program we had to
computer,
buy.
and then we would still have to drive.
Yeah.
Drive the whole route.
Yeah, we'd save that cell fee just on my
Right.
hand entering.
Mhm.
Not to mention you guys driving around, gas, wear on the vehicles.
Well, and then these
And
ones
hours of their wages.
are more accurate, so it should reflect,
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're
which
really
we might
good.
see an increase in usage or decrease some bills.
I wish Russ was here to talk about California because I'm sure that all of those are upgraded down there at their water system.
Okay, any other discussion?
What's the cost of putting those meters?
We'll put them in ourselves.
Yep, you gotta figure a cost of that too, because you gotta have, you're gonna have to rent a backhoe and all that stuff. You gotta-
We have a backhoe.
But
Russ,
that rubber one ain't gonna work, you need a track on something.
We are buying a new one too.
Okay,
Russ, the company said they would install them. They would charge the city between $60 and $90 each if we want them to install them.
Yeah.
But if we do it ourselves, we can get to, we can get to all the meters without digging them up. You just take the lid off and change it out.
and a lot of them filled up with dirt and we can barely see them now.
Some of them are original, probably 80 years old,
Yeah,
and they won't be a lot of fun, but we've done it.
and all the fittings will be corroded like crazy, so how much more cost is gonna cost too?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any more discussion? Do we want to move on to number 8?
Yeah.
Okay, number 8, consideration to purchase new meters and decision on which reading method.
I would move that we purchase the new meters and we do the cell phone tower.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move forward with the new meters and the cellular service. All in favor? Motion passes. Okay, approval of making contribution to the Kendrick War Memorial Pool. Todd did look at that and say that it is because our citizens are able to use the pool. It is legit that we are able to donate, and we donated. We were budgeted, I think, 1,000.
I don't like the word donate.
Well, or contribute.
We are helping fund something that is good for the city and the city's citizens. And because of the interlocal agreement and the benefit the city gets, I think the contract is appropriate. In the future, I would not use the word donated.
Sorry. Yeah, contribution. I should have read it where it said contribution. I apologize.
To clarify, how much money is the request? Because the agreement says 5,000 per year.
That was changed many years ago.
So do we have a new?
That was done in the previous administration long ago.
We probably need to update it.
Yeah,
So just to update the agreement and reflect 1,000?
that's what we budgeted for, correct, Eric?
I think it sounds right.
Mhm.
5,000 sounded high.
Right, I don't remember 5,000.
Yeah.
That's what I remember
Yeah.
too.
They were asking for more for a liner, but we only budgeted the 1,000.
I'll make the motion to do $1,000 contribution to the Kendrick War.
Have a second?
I second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor? Motion passes. Okay. The P and Z forms, you want to talk to that, Cheyenne or Justin? Or Cynthia? Cynthia?
I don't know, what forms do you have there?
We're just approving the forms that you sent us that we're gonna hand out to the public for, I think everybody got a copy of them.
Yeah, the bylaws are how we operate according to those, election of officers and things like that. And then the different forms, the forms that we've created, to use on our planning zoning. So when people ask for like a variance or subdivision, they're the forms to fill out to get the information that we need. And then after we've had a public hearing and discussed it and made sure we did everything, we make a recommendation on the information there and anything else we gather that we send on to you at the city. And you'll have all the information. We may not give you all the different forms because it'd be like checklists for us to check off. We've got everything. So that you'll have all the information that you can then proceed to do it the way you're supposed to do it.
Okay,
And the email did not include their updated bylaws. So I touched base with Cynthia
Yeah,
before the
send
meeting.
it.
She's going to send it to me. So the forms that you are voting on approving, like the checklist she just talked about and like the special use permit, those types of forms, but it does not include the bylaws at this time. So that will
And
be on for next
With
month.
those forms, we normally don't have, I mean, that's something you normally don't have to approve because we go through it every few years and update them depending what we think we might need more or something like we added at one time the email list because when I first started doing this, people didn't have email lists generally, so we didn't have that there. So we make changes as we go along to modernize them and make them easier for people to use.
well, I think where we just started back up with planning and zoning, it wouldn't be a bad idea to just approve these forms if anybody, unless anybody has any questions on.
No, pretty standard.
So then Cheyenne will know that when somebody comes in, that's the form they get, and then they go through that process.
I know discussion was had last month of putting the forms on the website as well.
That's right.
I think that could be done fairly easily.
Make the motion to approve the P and Z forms.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded, all motion passes. I don't believe that we need a budget workshop,
I don't think we do.
okay? Do we usually do,
No, I was just going to tell you, I mixed those up.
okay,
I
are we okay to flip flop those, Todd, or do we need to just follow the agenda?
You can do that.
You don't have to follow the agenda in order. If you add or subtract from it, if you add to it, you have to amend.
Okay.
The council can, vote not to take something up, but the order is not any consequence.
Okay, okay. Staff board, Justin.
The pond is measured with a chemical to kill the algae, so it is supposedly pet safe and fish safe and people safe.